Welcome back to Fantasy Files 1054 or FFX54 for short. We're going to get into a running back ranking weekly video. This is something that I've been wanting to get into and kind of been avoiding due to the production of editing the videos, but I found a way to do it in a live one-take version so that we can hopefully produce these for you on a weekly basis if you prefer them. We were doing start-sits in the beginning of the year, and I just felt like start-sit videos really aren't a whole lot of help. I think that you have a line, like in a fantasy football environment, you have a set number of players that you can play, and your starts and your sits are usually pretty obvious. So it's not really super useful information. That's how I always have felt when looking at fantasy football videos. I did it because I was trying to leave it as a free type of platform where we could talk kind of anything. But at the end of the day, I just like talking trades the most. I think trades are the most fun part of fantasy football, aside from drafting. It's a very active way to keep everyone involved, to spice up the roster, to give everyone a chance throughout the entire year. I mean, it's fantasy football, so making moves and kind of, roasting your friends and just playing around with your roster throughout the season. That's what it's all about, because at the end of the day, you probably put 10, 20, 30, 40, even if you put $100 on the entire season, it's really not about the money. It's because you want to have fun, you want to get involved, and you want to, most likely you did it with a group of people that you just want to talk shit with. So that's a long roundabout way of saying that I just think running back and wide receiver ranking videos will be the most beneficial to you when analyzing a player and where they rank. We can do periodic rest of season rankings to give you a better idea of who you should be targeting in those trades. But right now, we're going to do this running back ranking video. We're going to do the top 36, so that should be all relevant running backs. If you're not in there in the top 36 as a running back, you're probably looking at a waiver wire type of show, and maybe we'll throw some names in there as we talk. But let's just get right into it. I want to make these videos a little bit more compact. That's the other thing about the start-sit videos, is they were very lengthy. It was about an hour. It was more of a podcast-style format. So give me some feedback in the comments below. If you like the running back and wide receiver ranking videos, running backs will be today, wide receiver will be tomorrow. And also, if you like the start-sit videos, let me know as well, because we're going to, as we kind of find our niche and find what works for us as a channel, you got to remember we're brand new. So we're still finding what works for us and what's beneficial for you guys. But if you like that podcast style format, maybe we bring it back on Mondays or Thursdays and give 4 videos a week. So just to clarify, we're still going to do the live videos. We didn't do this past Sunday because I didn't realize that we had the 9:30 London game. And once the games kick off, you're watching the games. So this Sunday, look out for us to stream at 8 or 8:30 in preparation for that London game at 9:30. And then we're going to continue with these running back and wide receiver ranking videos as long as it gets decent feedback and I enjoy doing it. So that's what we're looking like at the big picture of the channel. We're going to constantly work at improving the channel and doing what it takes to give you guys the best possible content available on YouTube and give you guys a chance at winning your fantasy football league. So without further ado, let's just hop right into the actual video. Okay, so we're just going to release the rankings in groups of 12. So you'll have your running back 1s, your 2s, and then your flex options. Hopefully, if your roster is set up in a balanced manner. There's been a lot of injuries, so these running back rankings really got shaken up this past week. So that's what we're here for. We're here to give you guys an analysis on these running backs and their new situations moving forward for the rest of the season. And then analyze the matchup that they will be facing in this upcoming week, which is it's a massive factor once you get past the initial top 12. So starting off, let me get a sit. Starting off with our 1 through 12. You can see it now on screen. So we have Saquon Barkley as our number one option. He's going up against a Green Bay Packer defense, which is actually going to be middle to upper pack when we look at fantasy points allowed to the running back position. You got to remember there's only 4 games into the season, so these numbers are a little bit skewed, but we have an idea of who the better defenses are. But Saquon Barkley has been the best running back in the league so far. He is the running back 1, and we're going to keep him there. We're not going to talk about him too much and really anyone in this group too much just because these guys are lineup locks regardless. You know, you can use this to trade potentially, but again, it's a week-to-week basis type of ranking system. So these are going to vary from week to week, but for the top 12 people, you're really going to have... You should be starting them regardless. But Nick Chubb might be surprising to see this high, but he's going up against the Los Angeles Chargers. These are the Los Angeles Chargers have the 3rd worst running back defense in the entire league, right behind the Detroit Lions, letting up 30 points per game at the running back position. And Nick Chubb has been eating all year, so we're going to keep him up here. Austin Eckler finally showed up. He's the running back we were hoping that he would be, and he's in a decent matchup against the Cleveland Browns, letting up 23 fantasy points per game against the running back position. So we're going to look for him to continue this trend. He found the end zone once again. In one game, he hit the end zone 3 times, so now he's up to averaging almost a touchdown a game with that after that very slow start. His carries are still low, but he's getting that involvement in the passing game. So Austin Eckler is going to be our 3 right around Christian McCaffrey. The only reason I put Christian McCaffrey right behind Austin Eckler is matchup alone against one of the best defenses in the entire league. But I see Christian McCaffrey and Austin Eckler pretty much the same. I think that Christian McCaffrey is slightly more talented, or maybe even more than slightly, but on a way worse offense to give him way less opportunities in the red zone. And then Austin Eckler is the opposite, probably a little bit less talented, better offense, more opportunities in the red zone. So we have these guys neck and neck, not as involved in the running game, more involved in the passing game. So these guys are going to bounce back and forth based on matchup. So that's what we have here. Derrick Henry, what a stud. I mean, he's getting involved in the passing game now, which you just love to see it. The Washington Commanders are actually, 6 best against the running back position at 18.5 fantasy points per game. So the matchup isn't very favorable, but this is Derrick Henry we're talking about. He's involved in the passing game now. He's not just that running back role. He is catching it I think he got targeted 6 times last week. So Derrick Henry, easy lock, moving forward to Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor is very hard to rank this week. You got to make sure if you are a manager that has Jonathan Taylor that he's actually playing. It's looking like he's likely to play with this high ankle sprain. But I knocked him down a little bit from where he was just because of this injury. I think that his matchup is pretty difficult as well. But normally I wouldn't knock him down this far based on matchup alone. But, he's injured. The Colts have not been what we thought they were going to be. So we're going to watch what Jonathan Taylor does this week. And I think I'll hit this now. He's a trade target. He has underproduced for a few weeks, but he's still Jonathan Taylor. You can go out there and get him for next to nothing compared to what he's going to be for the rest of the year. So if you can go out there and grab him, go ahead and do it. But moving on, Dalvin Cook. Easy play. Chicago Bears are, let's see where they rank in running backs. 23.5 points per game at the bottom of the pack. So you're looking at a really good matchup here. They're not using Dalvin Cook as much in the red zone, which is a bit concerning. Alexander Mattison got that touch last week. So we are a little bit worried about that. But nonetheless, it's Dalvin Cook. We're playing him. Joe Mixon, divisional matchup against the Ravens. Again, matchup is nothing super special here. Joe Mixon is Joe Mixon. He's been struggling with that front line. He should have had so many more points than he did last week. He had, I don't even know how many touches, but he had over 6 touches at the goal line that didn't go in. So that's a little bit unfortunate. It's speaking to his offensive line and where they're at. If you couple that with how many times Joe Burrow has been sacked this year, that's concerning. But at the same time, he's a good offense. He's in a good offense. He's the primary running back. You're starting Joe Mixon. Leonard Fournette. The Bucs are here. They have their weapons back. They're looking good. Leonard Fournette will benefit from it. I'll toss in a waiver wire ad right here with Rachaad White. Leonard Fournette's a little bit older. Rachaad White was getting involved. You could have actually started him last week with a 14.5-point game, full PPR. So look for Rachaad White on your waiver wire and scoop him if you have an opportunity. But Leonard Fournette, it's going to be an easy start with a good matchup. Aaron Jones, I hate the Aaron Jones play. I would love to get rid of him, especially out 2 weeks removed from that really big game that he did have. A.J. Dillon is still getting a ton of touches in that backfield. And Aaron Jones, he scares me. So I would try to replace Aaron Jones. Maybe pair Aaron Jones with... Maybe you pair Aaron Jones with an overproducing wide receiver and go and get yourself Jonathan Taylor this week. Moving on, we got James Robinson at 11. He had a really slow week last week, but it was the first week that he was under or not in double digits. But it was the matchup. It was the game script. Philadelphia Eagles are one of the best defenses in the league, and they're one of the best teams in the league. So the game script didn't allow them to run the ball a whole lot. I think they really should have got the targets up to James Robinson and Travis Etienne that last game. But nonetheless, Houston is the team that has led up the most points against running backs at 32.8 per game. And James Robinson has been eating. He's the primary back in this offense. We're starting James Robinson as a running back 1. Alvin Kamara, great matchup with the Seattle Seahawks. We saw what Jamal Williams did to them last week, but he's removed from that. You know, he missed last week with an injury, and he's just coming back. Hopefully we do have him back this week, but when he does come back, he still might be dealing with a little bit of pain. He still might have a throttled workload. So we have him here at 12, but look for him to get back to full steam in these next couple weeks. And again, I'll hit the trade target on this one. He's done basically nothing this year so far, so you might be able to go out there and grab him for next to nothing as well, and maybe trade Rashad Penny in a package with an overproducing wide receiver and get yourself Alvin Kamara. All right, moving on to the running back 2s in my rankings. We're going to be looking at Jamal Williams again. He's in a little bit tougher of a matchup this week than he was last. Seattle Seahawks, we saw him eat, but he's going up against the Patriots, who are looking like they have 5th best defense against the running backs, allowing only 17.9 fantasy points per game. But again, I don't think Swift is back this week. So if it's going to be Jamal Williams, he's going to get the primary workload, and he's going to get those red zone touches. The Detroit Lions are the best offense in the league right now as far as fantasy point production goes, and Jamal Williams is going to benefit from that. So we're putting him at 13 here. Moving on to Josh Jacobs. Not much to be said. This is a great matchup against the Kansas City Chiefs. They're actually the 5th worst defense, letting up 27.6 fantasy points per game to the running back position. And we just saw Josh Jacobs drop over 30 points. He's the primary workload. They stopped messing around with Bolden and Abdullah and finally gave Josh Jacobs that workload. They're a good offense. I know they're 1-3, but they're a good offense. And moving forward, if we have Josh Jacobs as that goal line option in that offense, that's something we're going to be wanting to play for weeks to come. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is tricky for me. I think that his production has been overly efficient on very little touches. So I think you should be trading Clyde Edwards-Helaire away. I think this is his absolute peak for the rest of the season. I said that last week. I said that the week before. And he just keeps coming out and getting in the end zone, really. Last week, we actually saw a very solid workload with 19 carries, which is something that we hadn't seen all year. I think this was massively to do with the game script. I think it's slightly to do with the fact that they're phasing out Jerick McKinnon and making it an Isaiah Pacheco, Clyde Edwards-Helaire backfield, which is why you should be picking up Isaiah Pacheco this week on waiver wire. But, you have to play him based off of what he's done this season. But I would try to get rid of him if you can. And maybe he's part of your Alvin Kamara or Jonathan Taylor trade package in this upcoming week. But again, we can't ignore the production. We're going to have him at 15. Miles Sanders, again, one of those players that just looked incredible this past week. on a running first offense. I think his numbers were a little bit spiked based off of the weather, but he's the running back one for the best team in the league right now. So we're going to go ahead and throw him as 16. Jeff Wilson Jr. going up against a horrible Carolina Panther defense, or just team in general. So the game script is going to be in his favor. They're going to want to keep it on the ground because I'm thinking the 49ers go up fast against these Panthers. So we're going to put him at 17. If you have him, you're starting him. It's looking like David Montgomery is going to miss again. So Khalil Herbert against the Minnesota Vikings, being the 6th worst defense in the league when it comes to running back fantasy production at 26 points per game. Again, not much to be said. Khalil Herbert is a very capable back. He could probably be starting somewhere if he wasn't behind David Montgomery. So we're not worried about it. We're throwing him in our starting lineup. And then if anything happens, if there's any news with David Montgomery, he can go in to the 18th spot pretty much verbatim. Just flop him out. Moving on. This might be a little bit of a surprise. We have Ramondre Stevenson up at 19, but it's the Detroit Lions. He's going against the Detroit Lions at home with a third-string quarterback playing. So Bill Belichick is going to run the ball 100 times. Not actually 100 times, but he's going to run the ball a ton. I don't care that he's splitting workload with Damian Harris, and in fact, he's actually overtaking Damian Harris's workload finally, which is what we were expecting. That's why we were telling you to target him in trades in the beginning of the season, but he's finally arriving. And with this situation that he's in against the second worst defense in the league when it comes to running backs, or just in general, we're going to want to be starting him as a running back 2 option. So even though it's a bit of a surprise, I think he does give you that return that you're looking for. Dameon Pierce, going up against a team that's letting up 25.6 fantasy points per game against a running back position. It's his backfield. It's Dameon Pierce's backfield in Houston. It's not really a split workload, so we're starting Damian Harris. The Fierce Pierce is here. Throw him in your lineup. You're fine. James Conner's been very disappointing this year, and with this tough matchup, I have to have him this low. Rest of the season, I feel really good about James Conner. I think that the Cardinals as a team start to turn around when they have DeAndre Hopkins back, and they can get into a little bit better of a groove. They run a ton of plays compared to other offenses. Their pace of play is very fast. So I think that James Conner is going to start to capitalize on these red zone trips. But right now, the Cardinals have been very disappointing. It's a testament to how important one of the best receivers of this era is to the team. Surprise, surprise. So once the offense as a whole starts to produce a little bit more, James Conner will get bumped up. But against this Philly offense, without DeAndre Hopkins, we're going to have him down at 21. Speaking about disappointments, Najee Harris. This guy has volume and volume alone. We're curious about what happens this week with Kenny Pickett starting a full game, because the argument against him is that Kenny Pickett will vulture some touchdowns at the goal line and some rushing attempts, but maybe he produces a lot better, a lot more productive of an offense, gives them more opportunities in the red zone. Maybe he starts checking it down and using Najee Harris as a pass catcher like he was used last year. So we don't really know what he's going to look like at a full game with Kenny Pickett, but for now, Najee Harris is going to be down here, especially against Buffalo, who is going to be the top 10 best defenses against running backs. So we're going to have him down here this week, but we're curious to see what he does with Kenny Pickett at quarterback. J.K. Dobbins, he has a very difficult matchup. He has a very difficult matchup with Cincinnati Bengals, letting up only 19.5 fantasy points per game to the running back position, but it looked like he was back. It looked like he was back to pre-injury form last week. He had a couple touchdowns, and he gave a really impressive stat line of over 20 points. So J.K. Dobbins is a guy you want to be starting. He's going to be the running back at the goal line for a very good Baltimore Ravens offense. And if we can actually play more than one half, the Ravens played one half of football on the offensive side of the ball last week. They only showed up for the first half. So J.K. Dobbins put up over 20 fantasy points in one quarter. So when you look at that production, if the Ravens can, I say we because Ravens are my team, but if they can produce for all 4 quarters or at least 3 of the 4, J.K. Dobbins is looking at a very solid workload. He's the clear running back 1. Justice Hill just went down with an injury, and our backup running backs are horrible. So look for J.K. Dobbins to be in your starting lineup this week. And again, Melvin Gordon, the third. Unfortunate injury for Javonte Williams this past week with a torn ACL, and I believe a torn LCL as well. He's out for season. They being Denver Broncos brought in Latavius Murray from the New Orleans Saints practice squad over the week. And then they have Mike Boone. So look for Mike Boone on your waiver wires. I don't think Latavius Murray is worth rostering. I think that was a depth move for them. I think they needed running backs to roster, but I don't think he's going to get much playing time. If he does, he'll get a goal line touch here, 3rd and 1 touch there. But for the most part, it's going to be Melvin Gordon's backfield. But Mike Boone is worth picking up as a change of pace running back. I'm curious to see what we see here with Melvin Gordon in this upcoming week. I have him in a few of my fantasy football teams. He should be the running back 1 for a underproductive offense. But the silver lining there is that they have been underproducing. I don't think Russell Wilson is washed. I think they're still figuring it out. So on a season-wide perspective, Melvin Gordon may have a lot more value moving forward if this offense can figure it out. But Melvin Gordon is going to be a running back too, based off of the opportunities that he's going to have. But I will say, before we see what he does in the field, I wouldn't be upset going through and trying to use him as a trade piece and trying to trade Melvin Gordon and a receiver up to a more productive running back season-wide. I do like Melvin Gordon as far as being a startable option, but the fumbles have been there, and I don't really want to mess around with trying to rely on him as a starter throughout the season, because if he continues to fumble, that starting job is going to get ripped from him. Now, if you can go pick up I think it's Mike Boone. Hope not botching that, but if you can go pick up Boone and you have Boone and Gordon, then yeah, sure, you can ride out the Denver Broncos backfield. But nonetheless, Melvin Gordon is going to be our last running back too. All right. Moving on to our final 12 running backs. We're looking at Breece Hall here at 25. This is the last week. This is the last week you can go and try and trade for Breece Hall. Breece Hall is coming. He has not even arrived yet, and we have seen him produce double-digit fantasy point production all year. Every single game he's had over 10 points. He almost had 20-plus points last week if he didn't get his goal line touch vultured from him. He actually had the goal line touch. He was in. He got into the end zone. It was one of those situations where he was in, but they called it no touchdown on the field. They didn't have enough evidence to reverse it. If you go back and watch the game, he was the ball had broken the plane. So he ended up with 15 fantasy points. He almost ended up with 22, 23, 24. So not only that, did we see good production throughout the first 4 games, but his snap count has been bumping up and up and up, and Michael Carter's snap count has been going down and down and down. Breece Hall has taken over this offense. Zach Wilson didn't look horrible in his return. And what we were worried about is that Zach Wilson wasn't going to check the ball down to Breece Hall. He did. Breece Hall still got plenty of targets in the passing game. He got plenty of opportunities in the running game. Breece Hall's here. If you don't have him, trade for him. A.J. Dillon. It's a poor man's Nick Chubb. It's a poor man's James Robinson, and I mean that in the fact that it's basically touchdown or bust. I know that he's been getting those touches in the Packers offense. He does get some targets in the offense as well. It's been dropping off a little bit from the first couple games of the season, but going up against the New York Giants being a decent rushing defense, I don't love the matchup. I don't like what I've seen with the utilization, kind of switching over to Aaron Jones and giving Aaron Jones the more important touches. So A.J. Dillon is still viable, but he's bumped down my list a little bit this week. Devin Singletary coming in right behind A.J. Dillon. He has a very good matchup against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, The Pittsburgh Steelers are at the lower end of the running back defense. What am I trying to say? The fantasy points allowed to running backs. He said the Pittsburgh Steelers are sandwiched between Jacksonville Jaguars and Chicago Bears. But the thing I'm more curious about here, or more interested in here, is the matchup. I think the Bills just walk all over the Steelers, and that will result in a lot of Devin Singletary rushes, trying to kill and burn the clock. So Devin Singletary has been honestly a lot better than I thought coming into the season. He's been producing. He's been a startable option these first few weeks, or these at least the last couple weeks. He's been a startable option, and he still is as a flex. You could throw Devin Singletary in if your back's against the wall. Put him in at your RB2, and he should have a good week this week going up against a bad Pittsburgh Steelers. Kareem Hunt, kind of the same thing with Nick Chubb. It's just the fact that he doesn't get the important touches, or hasn't got the important touches since week 1. But, he's against the third worst defense in the Los Angeles Chargers. And I think the game script actually is more beneficial for Kareem Hunt than it is Nick Chubb. But being that Nick Chubb gets those red zone touches, that's why we see him so high, and the production that we've seen him produce. But Kareem Hunt, if you need to start him, I think you can comfortably start him. He's going to be that boom bust player where he's going to get you either under 10 points or he's going to get you 20 plus. So Kareem Hunt is a decent play this week up against a good matchup in the Los Angeles Chargers defense. Damian Harris, kind of copy and paste what I said about Ramondre Stevenson, except 10% less touches than Ramondre Stevenson and no work in the passing game. So Damian Harris still has a great matchup. I still think they run it a bunch in New England. Or is it in New England? Yeah, it's in New England. But Damian Harris is actively getting faded. Ramondre Stevenson is coming up, and he's getting those passing targets as well. So Ramondre Stevenson is far more favorable now, but Damian Harris is still a startable option against a very good matchup. Zeke and Pollard are back-to-back. I don't know what to do with them. I have been screaming I hate Zeke this year. Still hate him. He's been highly disappointing for anyone that drafted him. Tony Pollard is really the better option in this offense. We see the explosiveness out of him on a week-to-week basis. But the reality is Jerry Jones is still there. He's still running the team. He knows he overpaid for Zeke, and he's not going to give the starting job to Tony Pollard. So, unfortunately, these guys play him like a tight end. Like, if you like the matchup, I mean, they're going against the Rams, which is an awful matchup. It's actually the worst matchup in the entire NFL against running backs. They only let up 13 points per game to the running back position. So, horrible matchup, split backfield. I'd stay away if you can. But if I had to pick one, Tony Pollard's my guy. Miami, kind of similar-ish. I have Chase Edmonds and Raheem Mostert ranked back-to-back going up against the New York Jets. It's a very favorable matchup. We do like them going up against the Jets, and it should be a favorable matchup. However, it's going to be Teddy Bridgewater this week against the Jets at quarterback. Tua has already been ruled out for week 5, so I don't know how productive this team is going to be with Teddy Bridgewater, but Teddy Bridgewater isn't, he's not horrible. He's not a Brian Hoyer. He's far more capable. He was starting only a year ago. So Teddy Bridgewater is more than capable to hold this team together. I think Chase Edmonds is a little bit more appealing to me this week because he gets the red zone touches, and with Teddy Bridgewater, he might get a lot more check down volume than we've seen in the past. Now, Raheem Mostert is technically the lead back, basically from the 20 to 20. So out of the red zone, it's Raheem Mostert. Once you get in the red zone, it's more of a Chase Edmonds show. But I think these guys are kind of a coin toss on a week-to-week basis, and we're going to rank him as that. Antonio Gibson going up against the Tennessee Titans. This is a pretty neutral game environment or matchup that we're looking at here. But the real news line here is that Brian Robinson is now active. He probably does see a couple touches in this game. If you can trade Antonio Gibson away and get pretty much anything for him at this point, you just go ahead and do that because he's going to continue to fall off of a cliff here in production. Brian Robinson was named the starting running back in Washington leading into the season before he suffered that very unfortunate gunshot incident at the beginning of the season. But now that he's back He's healthy. He's active. Look for him to start to take over and trade Antonio Gibson away while you can. But this is probably the last week you can start him. Brian Robinson isn't going to get a full workload. He's still working himself back up to speed. So Antonio Gibson is still viable this week. If you're an owner, you're hoping for a massive week so that you can sell him high. But Antonio Gibson will be our number 34. And right behind him is Rashad Penny. Rashad Penny had a massive week last week, but we can't ignore the first 3 weeks. He didn't do very well. He catches no passes out of the backfield, and he was going up against the second worst rushing defense in the entire league. So let's temper our expectations a little bit. I think Kenneth Walker is still the back you want in Seattle. Seattle is looking far less hopeless than we originally thought. They actually are getting opportunities in the red zone, so I do like that as a whole. But Rashad Penny, going up against a very difficult matchup in New Orleans Saints, I think this is a pretty clear trade high or sell high candidate. And I don't really, other than falling into the end zone, I don't see a whole lot of production moving forward for Rashad Penny. Right behind Rashad Penny, we have Cam Akers. Again, on an offense that's underproducing. He's getting the workload, he's getting the passing targets, but until this team gets another receiver back, being Van Jefferson, again, not trying to toot my own horn here, but Allen Robinson was a bust. We called him being a bust all off season, and it's coming to fruition. He just can't get separation. He's getting targeted, he's getting looked at, but he can't get separation. So he has no production. And I think that the offense is going to struggle until Van Jefferson comes back healthy. I think Van Jefferson is someone to target on the waiver wire as well when he's looking like he's going to return. But until then, this offense is very disappointing. And until they start getting opportunities in the red zone, Cam Akers is going to stay down here as a very, very low flex option at the running back 3. But this is our first rankings on a week-to-week basis. I hope you find this valuable. It's a lot more fun for me to make. I feel like I'm providing something that's way more valuable for you guys. These are our rankings for the rest of this week. So when you're going to set your lineups, you're going to make trades, you're going to look at the waiver wire, take this information, analyze it, and apply it to your fantasy team as you see fit. Again, we're trying to help you guys win a fantasy football championship. And I think this is the best way to do it, to give you guys information that you can actually use. And I think this running back ranking format is something that you guys can actually take as tangible evidence and use it, apply it to your league. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. I answer all the comments, so I would love to hear your guys' takes on my rankings. I know these are a little bit more aggressive than, and I don't even know if aggressive is the right word. It's just going to be different than those massive sites that you're going to be looking at rankings for, and I provide that explanation so you know where we're coming from here, and hopefully give you guys a little bit of information that you might not have known. One thing I want to show you before we get out of here is going to be the lineups.com fantasy points allowed tab, and I'll scroll through this a couple times so you can pause and look at these ranking video or these matchups, but it's all laid out for you. This is what we're using to analyze our matchups and compare them to the talent of the running back options that we're looking at. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Look for this video moving forward, running back rankings, wide receiver rankings. I know we're shuffling it up a little bit, but you have to expect that in a new channel. We're brand new. This is the first year we're doing this. We were making Underdog Fantasy videos all off season, and we're trying to find our groove here in our Fantasy Files 1054's first official season on YouTube. So if you want to be on the if you want to be one of the OGs, go ahead down below, like the video. I don't know why I couldn't get that out, but like the video, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know when we're live on Sunday mornings. Again, Sunday mornings are going to be 8:30 a.m. for the next 2 weeks, I believe. While those London games are occurring in October. And then once we are entering into November, look for those live videos to be around 11 or 12. Doesn't matter if you have the notification bells on. You'll get alerted when we're live. Hop in there. We'll be keeping everyone updated on all the recent news and getting our final lineups locked in. So thank you guys for supporting the channel. I really appreciate it. This has been a lot of fun for me. And I hope this is helpful. We're audible in as we go. So throw some comments down there. Get your lineup set. Offer some trades. It's not that serious. Get active. Encourage your league mates to get active. But until tomorrow, peace out.